Hey guys, this is Jeff on the Entrefied podcast. If you're new to our podcast, what Entrefied means is entering into your success. We interview guests on our show, business owners, book authors. We have had a lot of different people on the show. We also have personal podcasts like this, which shares a lot of information that we've learned over time, habits, tips, mindsets, and things like that of people that are successful. Even some things of what they've learned going through their failures. So I hope you enjoy the show. What I'd like to talk about today is getting better outcomes. You know, a lot of times we don't need to be thinking about the negative things all the time. Instead of thinking negative things, and sometimes even worse, saying negative things, prepare for the negative things and don't speak them. You know, that's what we really need to do is prepare for them. You know, a lot of times we'll say, well, this day is not going to be good because it started out this way, or, you know, somebody done something to you. So you think, oh, I'm going to have a bad day. You know, when you start speaking those things, it's not good. Sometimes the best thing for we can do is kind of like the old saying says, if you ain't got something good to say, just don't say anything at all. But stop saying the negative things. You know, we can't always help what goes through our mind. We have a lot of things that come through our mind in a day. If you're like most people, and 90% of the people, I would say, has abundance of thoughts and things that try to come in their mind and bombard them all the time. But if you go to voicing some of those fears, like, well, you know, I'm never going to be good enough at my job. I'm never going to be as good as this person. This person's talented, or, you know, whatever the case is. I mean, if, you know, it could be a football star. You think he's better or she's better than you know, and you get to thinking that way, and it's negative. And it's like you have all this fear in your life and you can never be as good as what you could have been because you're always thinking about that fear of they're so much better, or I'm never going to be good enough. So get to the point where we start to recognize some of those things. I've talked about that in one of the podcasts, mental turmoil, you know, when we have a lot of negative things. But what I want to talk about a little bit different today is at least stop saying those negative things and what those are. You know, and what we can do is a positive thing to steal the power sometimes of the fear in large part, or maybe altogether, the fear loses all of its power when you start preparing for those things that you're worrying about. You can't control things. Why are we thinking about them? But the things that we can prepare about, it steals that power away from that fear. You say, I'm not going to be good at that test. I'm not going to pass it. You know, spend the extra time, find resources and techniques to be better and study that much more. And you're taking that fear, that power away from the fear. Should be more confident. You should ace the test. You know, I remember having to take a test one time, and the person wanted me to take the test. Um, it was really a hard test, you know, and I prepared for it, and I felt very confident when I went to take the test, and I did pass the test, although the test was a lot harder than what I thought it was. But here's the thing. I come at it from the point of view as I was going to study until I thought that I knew the material really, really well. I took the power away from the fear. If I'd have went in there half prepared for that really hard test, if I could have passed it, but I didn't prepare like I should, I might have let the fear get the best of my thinking and I may have failed it. I may have thought, you know, I just can't do this. This is really hard because I was super prepared and yet it was still a hard test. What if I'd only half prepared for it? And that's what I want to talk to you about. Start to recognize those things that are tripping you up in your life, those fears that you have. And if you can do something about them, start preparing for them. But stop negative things. Sometimes we cannot control our thoughts, as I mentioned earlier, but sometimes bad things do happen. So what can we do about that? Well, one thing we can do is start to recognize the things we fear and prepare for them, like I've been talking to you about. Fear loses its power. We can refuse to run the scenarios in our head over and over again. I mean, how often have we done that? How often have you done that where you start thinking about what could happen? You know, but here's the thing. When we stop that and we start looking at the things that we can prepare for out of that fear, then we're stealing that power away from that fear. You're priming yourself for a positive mindset. You're stepping into a faith-driven thought process. You know, remember the Bible says faith is dead without works. when you start putting action to faith, you start getting a lot of results. A lot of people want to just put faith and, they don't want to actually do anything. It takes action, guys, as I've mentioned many, many times. Again, you're free from the grips of fear when you start preparing for things that may happen. Instead of just worrying about it, if it's something you can do something about, then try to take care of it. I recently heard a story about a person that had been to jail, and they was talking about how the mattress was so thick, and it's something that was so hard to get used to. And they was telling me that, it was just really uncomfortable, and it took a long time to adapt to that. But it made me realize that even in tough situations, we can adapt. Start knowing what you need to do now in your new normal. See, for that person that went through that, they was facing a hard situation. And I'm not saying that we can't run into those situations, because often in life we do run into very difficult situations. And right then at that time, it's your new normal. It might not be somebody else's, but you have to make peace with the fact that you're there at that time dealing with a tough situation. So you have to figure out what you need to do to be successful in that situation. It may sound silly for me to say that, but what I'm trying to tell you is you've got to make your peace with what you've got to do. We can't always control what's coming at us. Sometimes we can only control how we deal with it. So remember why you're fighting. If you're going through some tough things in life, often people are not just fighting for themselves. They're fighting for their family members, the people that they love. Don't lose sight of that. Regardless how hard the struggle is, you have to remember what you're fighting for. Because if you don't, it's easy to give up. If you think, well, it's just me. No, it's not just you. There's other people depending on you. Even if you don't have anybody behind you, you're leaving an example for somebody else. So I would encourage you to always remember why you're fighting and who you're fighting for. How do you change what you're doing that doesn't work? That's one of the things that we keep running into in life. We run into things that's not working. So if you're doing something wrong, how do you just break those habits? Here's what you can do. You have to find the truth about what works for what you want. I call it the principles of success in the area that you want. You have to find out what works in that area. And once you find out what works in that area, you can start to apply it. You have to identify, as I've always said, you have to identify what you want to achieve and accomplish. And then you have to find the principles of success in that area and then just apply them. It sounds easier than it is. But when you find those and start to take action on those things, you'll begin to get results. But here's some of the things that we do. What are some of the things you're doing now that you could stop? See, it's not only what you're doing, it's what you need to stop. Some people think, well, I need to do this, I need to do that. What are some of the things that you need to stop doing right now? Are you talking about people? Some of these may not apply to all of us, may not apply to me, may not apply to you, but some of them might apply to us as well. I'd like to go over a list of some things that we may need to change that may be affecting us. When you're talking about other people negatively, and you're constantly talking about somebody, or there's always a conversation about who's doing this or who's doing that. It's not to the benefit of, learning something. It's just the benefit of talking about somebody. That's a bad habit to get in. Hanging around the wrong people, trusting and telling things to people that they're not the right people to tell that to. They're not trustworthy. Taking offense when people don't treat you right. I've learned sometimes the best thing to do is do the right thing regardless of whether somebody reciprocates that or not. You have to learn to do the right thing. And if they choose not to, you got to understand that there's a possibility that they'll do that. You have to know who you're talking to and treat them accordingly. But some of the things that we do sometimes is, we don't actually put the extra results in. That's another thing I've got wrote down here. Not putting the extra results that you need, like the extra study or the extra action to meet that extra level that you want in your business or in your relationships. We kind of do things half-hearted and we expect great results. What do you need to be doing with your relationship or in your job or in your career? What's the things that you need to be doing that are extra? I'd encourage you to think about that. caring a lot about what other people think. Sometimes the best thing to do is not care as much about what people think. If you're going to do anything meaningful, sometimes it's going to be going against the grain. You have to make a decision. Are you going to be with the crowd, or are you going to do what needs to be done? Because a lot of times those are two different directions. Here's another thing that we do sometimes. Always coming back for more bad treatment. Sometimes people respect you more when you treat them the way they deserve to be treated. And I know that sounds hard, but the truth is sometimes people will continually walk on you because you're able to be walked on. You would think somebody would be a good person enough not to do that, but the truth is some people will try to take advantage of you if they get opportunity. And if you keep just allowing them opportunity, sometimes that's the problem. They don't respect you. Sometimes you have to earn that respect, and sometimes you have to demand the respect to get it. You can't do just anything you want. You have to find the principles of success in that area that you're wanting to achieve, and then you apply that. You can't just do anything. One, find out the success principles for what you want. Next thing is apply that to and put action behind it. I want to leave you with one final thought. What are the things you need to start preparing for? What are the things you need to stop doing right now? We talk about doing a lot of different things. I want you to consider, as I've mentioned here, what do you need to stop doing? What's some of the things that you need to stop doing? Guys, I hope you've got something from this. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.